Jay here, Stretford Paddock, and this is, well, I want to say the Paper Tug or Gazetta or Loan Watch, but I'm not quite sure. It's basically a live video even, looking at how Manchester United's loan players have been getting on. Plus, we'll have a little bit of news. Plus, we'll get into anything else you guys want to talk about, because I want to chat about the likes of Antony and Jadon Sancho, who've obviously been playing for Real Betis and Chelsea, talk about how they've been getting on, talk about some of the reaction they've been getting, and talk about what this says about Manchester United's transfer policy, because I think it exposes a lot of flaws in Manchester United's transfer policy, and we'll get into that. I was going to do it as a pre-record and thought, no, let's not. Let's do it as a live vid and let's get you lot involved. Make sure you are hitting that like, share, and subscribe button. Also, if you want to know what the weather is like in sunny Salford, it's a bit minging, to be honest with you. Loads of people in the chat already. Someone says, Akash K says technical issues. I don't know what that's in reference to. If there are any technical issues, let me know. C74M says, new to this channel, morning all. Morning, good to see Colin Coupleditch, Santa Notch, Harry Potter, Crafty Badger, Ryan Pitt, all the usual suspects in there. Simon Edwards says the FA Cup 5th round draw will take place on Monday the 10th of February 2025 at approximately 7:10 p.m. GMT. That's the most detailed comment I think we've ever seen. Right, the reason I thought we'd do a little video looking at how some of Manchester United's loanees, lone stars have been getting on is because there's been a lot of talk and there are a lot of news and sort of noise around the performances of Antony at Real Betis. I think he's had, is it back-to-back Man of the Match awards or Player of the Match awards at Real Betis? I think he got a goal recently as well. I mean, he's been doing quite well there. In his first game, I think he got Man of the Match and he got an assist, although as Adam McCall will point out, it wasn't a straight assist. It was a shot that was saved. And in his second match, he got a goal, and I think he walks away with sort of the MVP award from the sponsors. They did lose against Celta Vigo in the last match, but Antony opened the scoring. He got the first goal, and I think in the end, they lost 3-2, and he sort of called out some of his teammates a little bit and challenged them over their mentality and stuff, which you can look at it as one way. You can look at it as bringing some high standards. You can look at it as being a bit aggy. I get it. I don't mind particular players saying, you know what, we need to up our game. It might sound a little bit rich coming from a player that's just got through the door. But to be fair to Antony, he has had, a goal-scoring game. He has had a game where he's been praised and has had 2 games now where I think he's received a form of Man of the Match. I say a form of Man of the Match. I think the sponsor's Man of the Match, or it's a Man of the Match that's sponsored. But he's got the Man of the Match anyway. I think they call it the MVP on what I saw online. So, yeah, he's doing well there, and he's been getting some plaudits there. Now, some people already, and I think we did a tweet on this on Stretford Paddock, a bit tongue-in-cheek, is our United the problem? If even Antony's doing well, and I say even Antony because he struggled at United, he really did. If he's doing well, then does that mean that it's actually Manchester United are the problem and it's not the players? Because if you see someone like Antony, who'd obviously really struggled at Manchester United, and if he can go to a different club and start banging in goals and getting Man of the Match awards, then does that show you that actually it's what's going on at United, which is the issue? Now, I don't quite think that is the case. And I think, as I said earlier, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. And I want you guys to get involved in the chat and the comments and let me know what you think. I think we have to be sort of honest and open and realistic about what we've seen from certain players in a red shirt. And in terms of Antony, look, listen, I know he didn't always start games, especially recently. He didn't get a lot of minutes. But for the first 2 seasons, he did get minutes. He did get a lot of minutes under Erik ten Hag, because Erik ten Hag spent a lot of money on him. So obviously wanted to use him and felt like he was a player he should be using. But he just failed to deliver. Now, if you look in that second season, for example, Antony's second season, he had 29 Premier League appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist, 5 yellow cards. He had far more yellow cards than he did goals and assists. In the Champions League, he had no goals and assists. In the FA Cup, 2 goals, one of them being against Liverpool, if you remember, a very important goal, and an assist as well. So, and in the EFL Cup, 38 games in total, sorry. It was just 1 game in the EFL Cup, no goals, assists. So in total, 38 games, 3 assists. 3 goals, 2 assists, 6 yellow cards. Now, I'm looking here at some of the numbers. There were some cameos. There were some matches where, against Man City, for example, he got 4 minutes. Against Spurs, 2 minutes. Against West Ham, 2 minutes. Fulham, 1 minute. Everton, 7 minutes. You can't count them. But there's games where he started the full game, where he's had opportunities, didn't really take them. The season before, which was his best season, his first season, helps us obviously to win the Carabao Cup, to get to the FA Cup final, to finish 3rd in the league. Had a very, very good start to his Manchester United career. 3 goals in his first 3 games against Arsenal, City and Everton. So, especially Arsenal and City, decent calibre of opposition there. Then, however, He didn't score or assist in the Premier League until April, I think it was, at Forest, where he got a goal and an assist. So he went like 4 or 5 months there without getting a goal or assist. So it was a bit of an up and down one. Let's not do him a disservice, though, because he did score in the cup competition. He obviously got a goal in the Europa against Barcelona, that fantastic evening at Old Trafford against Barcelona. So it was a decent first season on the whole. And I think a lot of us could see what he brought to the team, and it might not have been flush with goals and assists, but I think there was enough there to say, okay, we might have a player here. Second season, it didn't happen for him. This season hasn't happened for him. Eric and I gave him some minutes, not a lot, if we're going to be brutally honest about it. We thought he may be able to fit into Ruben Amorim's system. He may be a wing-back. I remember Joe Smith talking about that and saying, look, actually, if you look at the way Ruben Amorim plays, if you look at how he uses wing-backs, someone like Antony, a left-footed wing-back or left-footed winger, could be a wing-back because Ajax, especially, we've seen his defensive capabilities. Even at United, we have seen him willing to track back in the way that some other wingers weren't. And I think that was one of his better traits. So Joe made the point of maybe he could be used even on the right-hand side because Ruben Amorim does like to use a left-footed wing-back on the right-hand side. I think Giovanni Kenda is left-footed, but he plays him on the right-hand side. So maybe that could work. Or he could just put him as left wing-back. I think he gave him a half, didn't he, in the Europa, but didn't really fancy him. You could see that it just wasn't, he wasn't a player that he felt he could work with. And if you look at his minutes this season, he has had some minutes, he has had some games, but not a lot, not many. I mean, it would be lying if we said he'd featured a lot because he just hasn't. So the move to Real Betis made a lot of sense. And I think Real Betis are picking up like 3/4, whatever it is, of his wages. He's not on the most amount of money, Antony, but the fact that Manchester United getting him off the books, getting some money in for him, for a player that's just not really featuring, it made a lot of sense. Most of us, myself included, I say most of us because I was one of them, thought it made sense to move him on. Like, we're not going to use him. The manager obviously doesn't fancy him. It hasn't really worked out at Manchester United. If we can get him off the wage bill, hopefully with a view to a permanent move, it makes sense. Now, he's done really well at Betis. 2 games, 2 man of the matches, a goal. You can't fault that. Does that mean that Manchester United have erred in letting him go? No, I don't think it does. Does it mean that Manchester United are the problem? Sort of. And I'll get to this in a minute. This is why I think Manchester United might be the problem, but not in the sense that good players come here and they underperform because Manchester United is an issue. There might be an element of that. But I think the problem, what this exposes, is Manchester United's failings in the transfer market. And I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, Jack Bright says, I see McCullough on the club talking about United interested in Fulham's Craven Moorhead. What are your thoughts? Let's have a little bit of a... What you on about here? Sorry, bear with me a little bit. I don't know who that is or what you're talking about. I think that's a bit of trolling there. Sorry. In Fulham's Craven Moorhead. I get it. Right. Yeah. See what you did there. Thank you. I was thinking then, hey, I've never heard of that player. Then I get it. It's one of those things. He's done me. Thank you. I need to get out more. Yes, thank you. He's explained it. Thank you. Right. There. You see, thank you. I thought to myself there, what? I've never heard of him, but I didn't see the actual joke. Also, Jamie Campbell says, is he not a movie director? He is a movie director, isn't he? That's what I thought I'd heard of him from. I think we've gone off on a tangent here, but there is actually a movie director, I'm sure of it, called that. I'm not going to keep saying it because obviously now people pick up on the fact it's rude. But yeah, he is. In terms of Antony, if we get back to reality, I don't think this exposes that Manchester United are the issue. I think mostly exposes Manchester United have got a problem with signing players that aren't good enough for the Premier League. That's what I think. I think the fact that you've seen Antony go and smash it at Real Betis shows that he can do it at a certain level, but that level, for me, isn't the Premier League, because look at his Premier League record. It isn't great, and he's had opportunities. And it's not like you can say, oh, well, this season he's not really been given opportunity. Yeah, he hasn't been given the opportunity this season, but he has overall. He's 62 appearances in the Premier League. Again, not all starts, so we will give him, I will admit that. 5 goals and 3 assists. It's not amazing, is it? And also, it's cause and effect. If you're smashing it in the Premier League, you keep your place in the team. You have more minutes. You have more appearances. But I don't think that's happening because he wasn't constructive. He wasn't contributing. He wasn't getting enough goals and assists. Antony became a bit of a not a hated figure, but a lot of people looked at him as a symbol of or symptom of what had gone wrong at Manchester United, where we'd spent 80 million quid on a player that we valued at 35 million quid, and we'd done it as a bit of a panic buy on almost the last day of the window because we needed to bring someone in because we lost back-to-back games. It's just not good enough. And I think the fact that he's gone to Real Betis and done well shows you he's a good player at a certain level. Not at the level you need in the Premier League and not a level you need at Manchester United, especially if we do want to move up that table and we do want to be challenging at the very top. And that brings me to the other player I want to talk about, and that's Jadon Sancho. Now, Jadon Sancho, when he first went to Bournemouth, when he first went to Chelsea, I think was it man of the match he had against Bournemouth, I want to say, had a very good start to his Chelsea career. Like, man of the match. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it was the Bournemouth game that I saw him in. Came on against Bournemouth, did really well. I think he got man of the match. People looking at him and an assist. People looking at him going, okay, this is the Jadon Sancho that Manchester United wanted to see. Got an assist in his next game against West Ham in the Premier League. Next Premier League game against Brighton, gets an assist, helps Chelsea to win that game. Couple of goals, back-to-back goals against Southampton and Spurs, an assist against Crystal Palace. Beginning to look like the player that you thought we were getting when we bought him from Dortmund. However, more recently, he has tailed off. And in the FA Cup game against Brighton, where Chelsea were knocked out of the FA Cup by Brighton last night, he's not had a great game. He's had a bit of a stinker. And I noticed a lot of people online, a lot of Chelsea fans were hammering him. They were giving him a lot of grief. Listen, I know that you can't just take everything off, online trolls or whatever. It's I say trolls. People online don't always give you that sort of fair assessment. Sometimes it's a bit like, okay, people just being a bit reactionary, people being, a little bit harsh or whatever. But there's a lot of Chelsea fans who are saying, look, we feel like we've been scammed by Manchester United. One says Sancho doesn't apply himself nearly enough on the pitch. The way he ducks out of duels is so criminal. Lack of overall intensity is crazy. Weird. Someone else saying, stay at Sancho, not even jogging. There's quite a few more, actually, to be honest with you. Let's see. I don't want to read out nasty, like proper nasty ones, because I feel like that's a bit too much. Did Manchester United scam us? Says one Chelsea account with quite a lot of followers as well. He's got 647,000 followers. CFC Jancy, I think his name is. I don't really know who he is, but got a lot of followers. Did Manchester United scam us? I mean, the fact you're even asking that question says a lot, to be honest with you. It's obviously not going that well for Jadon Sancho at Chelsea. Now, listen, I don't want to look too much into one game, but we've seen this before with Jadon Sancho, where he'll have these little fits and starts where he'll look good for a few games, then he'll tail off. He did it at Dortmund. People forget because he got to the Champions League final. People thought it was all rosy at Dortmund. It wasn't. He had a very good game in the semi-final first leg against PSG, and he had a decent start to his Dortmund career, or say, Dortmund career, his return to Dortmund. But there was a few games where he wasn't great. He was getting hammered in the press. And let's not forget as well, Dortmund didn't sign him. They could have done. They could have said, look, he's come back here. He's been brilliant. We need him back. Let's buy him off Manchester United. And they would have got him for less than we paid them for. Would have been a good deal for them. But they chose not to. So that says a little bit there. My point I'm getting at here is, as with Jadon Sancho, as with Antony, these players seem to not be good enough for the Premier League. That's my issue. Are Manchester United buying players that just aren't quite Premier League standard? Certainly not the top end of the Premier League. I know we're not in the top end of the Premier League, but it does feel a little bit like that. Jadon Sancho's gone into a Chelsea team, which can be a little bit dysfunctional. We know all that. We know they've got, they have this huge squad, a new manager, all the rest of it, but they've got players that do perform well. Cole Palmer smashes it most weeks for Chelsea. Even Nicholas Jackson, who can be a bit of a figure of fun, should we say, he can get lampooned quite a lot. He scores quite a few goals for Chelsea. You can do well in that Chelsea team. Jadon Sancho himself has done well in the Chelsea team. And even if you're not doing well, you can at least show that energy and effort and that willingness that can ingratiate yourself with the fans. However, Jadon Sancho doesn't seem to be showing that. It doesn't look like there's a question of just what level he's at. You look at Antony doing well at Real Betis. No disrespect to La Liga. It's a very good league. You might argue it's up there with the Premier League. I don't think it is. But did we see enough of Antony to think that he's good enough for the Premier League? I don't think we did. And we keep doing this at Manchester United. We keep buying players that leave Manchester United and mostly find success when they leave the Premier League. Players that leave Manchester United and stay in the Premier League, more often than not, struggle. Now, I'll give you, one. I know we have to go back a little while here, but you look at someone, for example, like Romelu Lukaku. Now, Romelu Lukaku, whose record at Manchester United, I can quote it off the top of my head, I don't need to Google it, 42 goals in 96 games. On paper, looks very good. However, it doesn't tell you the full story there. Used to scoring fits and starts, became a bit of a meme, falling over the ball at Southampton and all the rest of it, put on a bit of weight, whether it was intentional or not, we'll never know. Didn't really help his game. And then it got almost untenable where at Manchester United, where you knew he had to move on. He moves on to Inter, does very well. 34 goals in his first season there, 30 in his next season. Absolutely smashes it. Comes back to the Premier League, though. And he's still in his 20s when he's back at Chelsea. Struggles again with this issue of, becoming a bit of a meme, fans turning against him, all the rest of it. Goes back to Italy, does a little bit better, and then had a decent spell, I think, at Roma. Was it last season? And at Napoli this season has done quite well as well. So even someone like that who had a bit of pedigree, you look at him thinking, is he the calibre that you need in the Premier League? I know he'd had success in the Premier League at Everton and at West Brom, but probably not. Not anymore. He did well when he went to Italy. You look at some of the other players that we've let go over the years. One sale that we're always going on about as Manchester United fans, and we do it on the channel, and a signing that made a lot of sense, and we actually made some money out of it. We got a couple of good years out of him, and we made a profit, was Dan James. Now, I'm not trying to dig out Dan James because I think Dan James did a decent job for Manchester United, and as I said, he's one of the few footballers we've bought where we've actually made quite a bit of money off him. But Dan James comes to Manchester United and spends 3 seasons in the Premier League at Manchester United, or 2 and a bit. Yeah, first season, I think he played 30-odd games, second in the Premier League, second season, 15. Third season, we move him to Leeds. Now, even at Leeds, he has 1 season in the Premier League. Then I think they loan him at one point to Fulham. Then he goes back to Leeds, and now he's in the Championship and he's doing all right. Again, though, it's that whole thing of, are we buying the caliber of players that we really need? Even when we buy young players like Dan James and like Antony and like Jadon Sancho, these are young attackers that you hope have got another level to reach that are going to kick on when they're at United. And it doesn't quite happen for them. And I'm struggling to find a player or look at a player we've signed, unless you want to look at the summer recently and say someone like De Ligt or Yoro or Ugarte, where you can look at those players and say, look, they look like they've got a bit about them. But I'm struggling to find players over the last sort of 6 or 7 years where you can go, yeah, we bought them, they were mint, they were Premier League standard, and then even if they left or whatever, they still went and smashed it. Doesn't really happen, does it? And I think the ones that have had success have usually had success, or pretty much all the time have had success when they've gone abroad, where maybe the pace of the league isn't quite as quick as the Premier League. Maybe it is the pressure of Manchester United. Maybe it's just the fact that we're making bad signings. We're making signings that aren't good enough. How many of our signings, when they leave, are you gutted they've left? Genuinely. How many of our signings are you like, oh, mate, we shouldn't let him go. We shouldn't be selling him. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Paras, who's been a member for 49 months, says, Jay, my first child was born last month. Is it best to get him into boxing or golf instead? I want him to enjoy his childhood. I mean, for starters, I appreciate the fact you're asking me for proper, deep, and meaningful life advice. I'll be honest with you. Whenever I'm asked any sort of advice or my take on anything, I'll give you my own experience. My lad does boxing, or he did do boxing. He's sort of clashed with his football, and he's focusing on his football now. He really enjoyed it. But if your child was born, your lad was born last month, you've got a long time to worry about that. I think I first took my lad to the boxing gym when he was, I want to say 7, I think he was. And obviously, when you take him to boxing gym when they're 7, they're not sparring, they're not punching each other. It's just pad work and stuff like that. But it's good. It was good for discipline. But it's like anything, you have to find the right coach, the right boxing gym, something that you're happy with, and see what they want to do. My kids, anything they want to do, I ask him, do you enjoy it? Is it what you want to do? I don't force them onto it. My little girl's just started playing football because she wants to. She wants to play football and she enjoys it and she does well. So it's the same, my lad. Take him to football because he wants to go. If he didn't want to go, I wouldn't take him. Akash K says, Sancho found his level at Germany. That stupid clown Woodward didn't leave him there. I've never rated him at all, to be honest. Yet we paid 70 million. Christ, UPTP. So he's been quite scathing. This is an interesting one because 2 people have asked this now. Christodoulou says, hi, buddy. What are your thoughts on Jamie Jackson's comments? Siddharth says, thoughts on Jamie Jackson's questions to Amorim. So let's remind ourselves of those of those questions, because Jamie Jackson is a mate. I've known him for a while. It's one of those where, he's been a friend of the channel when we're full-time Devils. He's been someone that has always come on as Stretford Paddock. Get on with quite well with Jamie. Get on really well with Jamie. But recently, he's been asking questions that have upset a lot of people. It feels like he's been almost like a bit Jeremy Paxman-esque. And I keep getting tagged in things on Twitter. People saying, oh, look at your boy here, Jamie Jackson, asking, Ruben Amorim this and asking him about that. And I just want to pull up some of the questions themselves about what have upset a lot of people, because there has been a lot of sort of anger towards Jamie. People keep flagging it up and saying, you know what, these questions, why is he asking them? I mean, he's asking him about, I think he's asked him about Marcus Rashford. He's asked him one or two questions. I think in the past he asked him about when he said about nerves, about being nervous. And he asked him, did he mean him? Did he mean he was nervous? So he's asked him a few questions that have sort of been quite brutal, but pretty forceful, should we say? Not too, fluffy. So that's upset a lot of people. A lot of people have been tagging me and stuff and saying, why is Jamie Jackson asking this? Why is he asking that? And you know what? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll get Jamie on the channel. We'll ask him about it. We can ask him about it, and you can put your questions to Jamie. And you can say, why are you being like this with Ruben Amorim? If you feel he's crossing a line, then let me know. Let him know. Obviously, I'm not encouraging you to slag him off or to troll him, but you can criticize a journalist. I don't buy into this idea. You can't criticize journalists, or you can't question them. I think you can. I think Jamie's been in the business long enough to know that that's part of the course. If you're going to cover Manchester United, if you're going to ask difficult questions to the manager, if you're going to be at times quite hard with the manager, then you can expect a bit of pushback from Manchester United fans. And I think everyone's well within the right to do that. So yeah, maybe we'll get him on and we can ask him. Akash K says, Jay, I don't mind when Jamie, can someone send me a link to the questions? I don't mind when Jamie Jackson comes on Paddock, but he was asking embarrassing questions here. Not gonna lie, some people don't want him on the channel. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna fall out with Jamie Jackson because he's asking questions that I might not even agree with him, but I think it's important to always hold managers to account. Whether he's asking the right ones or not is a matter of opinion, but I wouldn't mind asking him about that, chatting to him about that. Sutton P says, Jay, I'll get Sutton P and then I'll get Soliasone. Sutton P says, Jamie Jackson is fine, but for some reasons he's trying to get answers for broad questions about football psychology for Amorim. Soliasone says, Jay, are you protecting his friend? Are you protecting his friend or my friend for asking nonsensical questions? I'm not protecting anyone for asking nonsensical questions. I've literally said, if you want, we can get him on the channel and put it to him about these questions. I've not got any issue with that. I'm not trying to protect him. I'm literally saying, let's ask him about it. Instead of asking me what I think about what he's done, why don't we ask him himself? I'm sure he'll be happy to come and chat to us. Other people aren't quite as keen. Gareth Thompson says Jamie Jackson is a journalist, not a fan. John McGuigan says he's a knob. Just trying to get a good reaction from Amorim. I mean, again, I don't want to put words in Jamie's mouth. Jamie probably argue it's his job to ask questions, but you might not like the questions asking. So why don't we get him in and we can put it to him? Just going back to what I was saying, let me know what you think about the performances of Jadon Sancho and Antony on loan. What do you think that means? Akash K says, Jay, what did you think about Emery comments on Marcus Rashford yesterday? I've not seen them, so let's have a little bit of a butcher's hook. So it says here, Aston Villa manager Unai Emery says he faces a huge challenge. This fits in as well because it's a loan move, isn't it? We're talking about loanees. Faces a huge challenge to help revive Marcus Rashford's career, but he's ready to exploit his potential. He says, my challenge with him is a huge challenge. His challenge with us is exciting. I don't want to know the reason he's leaving from Manchester, but I'm very happy keeping him here, and I'm very happy to try and exploit and help him recover his performances individually and collectively. The conversation I had with him was a very normal conversation with the player and coach speaking about football. I only want the best football from him. I think he has huge potential to exploit. Going back to some of the things I was saying earlier about how players at Manchester United, more often than not, when we let them go, it's because they're not quite Premier League standard. It'll be interesting to see whether Marcus Rashford is still Premier League standard. because he's going to a very good club there in Aston Villa with a very good manager. There's no excuses now for Marcus Rashford. You can't go there and say, oh, well, I went there and it was a bit of a shambles and the manager didn't know what he was doing and the squad was terrible and we were up against it and the fans had turned on everyone. No. Aston Villa are a massive club. They're doing well. They're in the Champions League. Unai Emery is one of the best managers in the Premier League. For me, there's no excuses there. You've got a good team as well. You've got good players around you. You look at that Aston Villa squad, it's a very good squad. So I think Marcus Rashford here, if he wants to have a Premier League career and a decent one, he has to perform at Aston Villa. I don't think he's going to come back to Manchester United, and it saddens me the way it's ended, but I think it's probably best for all concerned. But I do think that Marcus Rashford has to perform. Someone says I'd rather have, who's that? Sorry. JV says, I'd rather have Carl Anker on the channel. No, Jamie Jackson. Well, we're going to get them both. Daku77 says, yes, Jay, brother, keep up the good work. Stephanie Griffey says, 29 away from 200 likes. John McGuigan says he asked a rhetorical question or theoretical question. What if? Desu no Sutter Reiki says, Antony was a waste of money. And Jadon Sancho, remember that, has been mismanaged. Akash K says, yeah, exactly. Big pressure on Aston Villa to get Champions League next season in order to sustain their wage bill. Maybe there is. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think with Marcus thing, they're covering a lot of his wages. And is it, let's have a look at the actual deal. Is it an obligation? Or it's not an obligation, is it? It's an option to buy, I think. Let's have a look here. There's a bit of a, oh no, I can't even get on that one. Crikey. Yeah, I think it's an option to buy. So, yeah, it's Aston Villa have signed. This is when he first signed. Marcus Rashford on loan until the end of the season. They'll cover 75%, which could raise of his wages, which could go up to 90%, depending on his and the team's performance. Let's have a look. They made that work as well, didn't they? I think it is an option to buy. They made that work by selling John Duran, I think, to was it Al Nassr he went to for about 64 million quid. So they've got money that they can cover Marcus Rashford's wages and probably still have some left over. So it was a decent move all around, that one, I feel. I think Marcus has got a good club. United have got a player out the door that when that obviously wasn't performing, wasn't in the squad, just was surplus to requirements, and hopefully he can get his career going and we can get some money in the summer. I feel like Manchester United need to make some signings in the summer, and we may have to sell a few players as well to do that. JB says, Jay, what do you think about City spending 200 million on players in January? And do you think they know they're getting away with all those charges? I don't think it shows anything when it comes to the charges. I don't know either way. You could say, well, they know they're going to get a transfer ban. They're stockpiling. You could say they're trying to act like, you know what, we don't care. So either they do get the charges found to be guilty, they can say, well, look, we feel like we've been outdone by it. Look how we went out big in the January transfer window because we didn't think we'd done out wrong, so we were shocked by this decision. Or they may have had a tickle where someone said, don't you worry, everything's going to be all right. So they thought, right, we can spend money like a sort of cracked up Kardashian. I don't know. I just don't know. Is the honest answer. I'm sorry to say again, it's Moise. John McGuigan says, he basically asked Amorim, what if Rashford scores goals for Villa and Emery? Thank you. What does that say about you, Amorim, as a coach, and that you couldn't get him to perform? Quite brutal. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's not sugarcoat it. Quite a brutal question there, I think, from Jamie Jackson. And the weird thing is, you meet Jamie, he's like the nicest guy in the world, but he has been asking difficult questions. So, yeah, we can ask him about that. Maybe get Carl Anker on as well, because someone said they'd rather have Carl Anker on. I'd rather see both of them on, to be honest. We'll not have Carl Anker on for a little while. I love Carl. Top bloke. Yeah, is a difficult one, that. Lamp says, glad Rashford will be stinking up somewhere other than Old Trafford from now on. Well, I hope he isn't stinking up anywhere. Even if you don't rate Marcus Rashford and you don't like him, or you've had enough and whatever, you want him to do well for Aston Villa so that they'll buy him and that we can get some money in and spend it elsewhere. Simon Edwards says, I want to see wingers that take on players and get to the byline and get good crosses in, not wingers that cut inside and take wonder shots on. Akash K says, Carl Anker is a legend. Stephanie Griffith says, 200 likes, 1,400 watching. Someone said about Stephanie Griffith should be a mod. Stephanie always shows us a lot of support on the channel and is always pushing that hit the like button, which is something I should do. Antony is on 200 grand at United, Jay, says Liam. Yeah, I've heard that. I said that the other week, and someone said, no, he's not, he's on 100k. I heard it was closer to 200k. Look, It's a lot of money. He's getting it covered by, or the brunt of it covered by Real Betis. He's not one of the top earners at Manchester United, which says a lot more about Manchester United than it does about Antony. I mean, the fact that he's on 200k, according to a lot of reports, and he's still not one of our top earners, and yet we're 13th, and we've got players that are earning, over 300 grand, including Casemiro, who's not even getting barely any minutes. It is a bit of a joke. I mean, yeah, it's symbolic of the shambles of Manchester United transfer policy. I feel like we've gone sort of all around the houses with everything at the minute, but this is sort of where we're at. We're at a place in the club's history where we've got a lot of players who are overpaid and underperforming. We're trying to move them on. PSI is now a thing where we have to sell to buy. We don't have the ability to do what we've done in the past post Sir Alex Ferguson and just go out and spend 300 million in the summer transfer window to try and sort this mess out. It looks like we're going to have to sell to buy. Whether that's Marcus Rashford, hopefully it is. Whether that's one or two other players, I don't know. But I know the way it looks at it at the minute, Antony is a player that's doing himself a lot of favours at Real Betis. Jadon Sancho less so. But I think with Chelsea, it's more sort of the deal structured where if they finish above a certain place in the league, they're going to buy him for a certain price. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Bernardino says, morning, Jay. Dan Boy says, morning, Jay. Akash K says, like Ryan Giggs said recently, we're not in a good place. Sorry, that's just moved up. But he likes and backs Ruben Amorim. Nice one. Giggs it. I like and back Ruben Amorim. I do think some of the performances have been a little bit disappointing. I don't think there's any shame in saying that. You can, like, two things can be true. You can think the manager's the right manager for the job and he's inherited a mess, and that some of the performances have been underwhelming. I think that is obvious to anyone that's watched Manchester United over the last couple of months. But I think Ruben Amorim, with the right support, will fix it. And a big part of that is we've got to get rid of some of the players that aren't performing for Manchester United, that aren't really wanted at Manchester United anymore. We know that Antony and Jadon Sancho are two of those. Marcus Rashford is another one. I hope they all do well on loan. I hope they move on permanently. We get the money in and we can buy some players that Ruben Amorim wants and that fit into his system. I like what I saw from Patrick Dorgu in his 45 minutes against Leicester in the FA Cup. Wasn't a great sample size against a pretty underwhelming Leicester team, but I thought he did well on his debut. Interesting to see that he played on the other side as well, that he played on the right and Delo on the left. We'll see what happens with that. I think Ruben Amorim said he can play both sides, so it'll be interesting to see where he plays for the next game. Going to leave it there. Real Bites Down Under says, watching in Australia, Jay, love the paddock, love Australia. We had a great time there on pre-season a couple of years ago. Getting quite drizzly here in not so sunny Salford. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be outside Old Trafford. Hopefully the weather will have picked up then. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. I had a really good discussion here about all sorts, from Jamie Jackson's press conference questions to Marcus Rashford at Villa to Jadon Sancho at Chelsea to Antony at Real Betis. One thing we can all agree on, we all want Manchester United to get back to where we belong, near the top of the Premier League. Seems like a long way off, but hopefully we'll get there with Ruben Amorim. I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motty. Thanks for watching.